Tired of King Charles? Bored of Will and Harry? Take a step back in time and meet the British royals of the late 19th century. You've probably heard of Queen Victoria.
Then you may think on this also, that I am not amused.
By the 1870s, Victoria had been on the throne for over 30 years. In 1861, her beloved husband, Prince Albert, had died, leading Victoria to mourn obsessively and completely withdraw from public life. After a decade of isolation, her subjects were wondering what the point of a queen was if she refused to be seen by her people. In 1871, an anonymous pamphlet not so subtly pointed out that Victoria made a lot of money off the country she had abandoned, and even suggested that it might be time to rethink this whole monarchy thing. Things only got worse for Victoria in 1872, when her older half-sister, Fjorda, died aged 64. The two were close, and the queen was completely distraught. She wrote in her diary, "My own darling, only sister, my dear, excellent, noble Fjorda is no more. She was my last near relative on an equality with me, the last link with my childhood and youth." That's not all either. The same year, Victoria was cornered by an Irish revolutionary, threatened with a broken gun, and only rescued by the efforts of a servant. Annus horribilis, indeed. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert's first child had been a girl, who they named after her mother. To avoid confusion, her nickname in the family was Vicky. The crown princess married the nephew of the King of Prussia, Frederick Wilhelm, in 1858, and moved to that country while still a teenager. Although she enjoyed a happy marriage, Vicky's time in Prussia was unpleasant, as she was considered by many to be both too English and too outspoken. The early 70s were a busy time for Vicky. In 1870, Otto von Bismarck convinced her father-in-law to start the Franco-Prussian War. Vicky visited hospitals and assisted charities during the war, earning the ire of both her in-laws and von Bismarck himself. Eventually, Prussia emerged victorious, leading to the foundation of the German Empire, a project that conflicted with her relatively liberal political ideals. While all of this was happening, Vicky was also busy becoming a mother, giving birth to 8 children over the course of her marriage. Queen Victoria's firstborn son, Prince Albert, was named after his father, but he was known as Bertie to friends and family. When he became king on his mother's death in 1901, he was styled as King Edward VII. 1869 had been a disastrous year for the Prince of Wales. At a time when divorce was legal but hard to secure, he was named in the divorce suit Sir Charles Mordaunt. Brought against his wife, Lady Harriet, Bertie was forced to take the witness stand, something unheard of for a royal. Worse still, he almost certainly perjured himself when he denied having an affair with Harriet. While the prince had a notorious sexual appetite, and one that often fell outside the bounds of his marriage, the ensuing scandal provided plenty of fodder for satirists and pamphleteers. The 1870s weren't much better for the future king. In 1871, Bertie contracted typhoid fever, the same disease that may have killed his father, and on the 10-year anniversary of his passing to boot, the Prince of Wales came very close to death, but eventually recovered. It wasn't all bad, though. Albert's bout of illness spurred British society to take typhoid more seriously and, at the same time, helped restore the popularity of the monarchy. In 1863, Prince Albert had married Alexandra, daughter of King Christian IX of Denmark. Marriage to the heir to the English throne was not all roses, however. Bertie slept with a constant stream of mistresses. For one thing, while Alexandra was expected to step up as a mother to their many children. In 1869, Alexandra gave birth to Princess Maud, her 5th child in 5 years. Albert and Alexandra had their 6th and final child in 1871, a son who died shortly after birth. Alexandra did not attend the funeral. In 1867, Princess Alexandra fell seriously ill. While she survived, she was left with 2 serious disabilities: partial deafness and a pronounced limp. Then, in 1871, she had to deal with her husband's battle with typhoid. And maybe you think that Alexandra could have used a change of scenery after all that stress, but her husband left her at home when he set off on his 8-month tour of India in 1875. Talk about true love. As the male heir to the throne, Prince Albert was by far the most important of Queen Victoria's children. Any daughters after that were still valued for their marriage prospects, however, which allowed Britain to spread its influence across Europe.
Rule Britannia!
Princess Alice, born in 1843, was married off to Prince Louis of the German state of Hesse in 1862. Her wedding was a relatively subdued affair, since it took place only 7 months after her father had died. Alice had 7 children in total, 3 of them between 1870 and 1874. However, tragedy struck in 1873 when it was discovered that her son, Prince Friedrich, was a hemophiliac. Only 3 months later, he bled to death after falling out a window. He was 2 years old. Nor was Alice's marriage a happy one. It was effectively over by 1876, when Alice wrote to her husband, "I longed for a real companion, for apart from that life had nothing to offer me in Darmstadt. I could have been quite happy and contented living in a cottage if I had been able to share my intellectual interests and intellectual aspirations with a husband whose strong, protective love would have guided me around the rocks." Sadly, Alice never found the love she was looking for. She died of diphtheria on December 14, 1878, on the 17th anniversary of her father's death. The idea of the royal spare is quite familiar nowadays.
Within the family, as such, there's the spare and the heir. My brother being the heir and me being the spare.
Prince Alfred was the first male spare born to Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. From a young age, he knew that he wanted to join the Royal Navy. His father, Prince Albert, wrote in a letter in 1857 that neither he nor Queen Victoria was thrilled about the 13-year-old's desired career path, but that they wouldn't stop him either. As regards his wish to enter the Navy, this is a passion which we, as his parents, believe not to have the right to subdue. It is certainly not right to break the spontaneous wish of a young spirit. Alfred signed up a year later. In 1867, he embarked on a dramatic worldwide tour, visiting Gibraltar, Cape Town, and Australia, where he survived an assassination attempt. Later tours included Hawaii and Japan. Alfred settled down in 1874 when he married Maria Fyodorovna, the daughter of Russia's Tsar Alexander II. They held 2 wedding ceremonies in order to accommodate both of their faiths, the Church of England and the Russian Orthodox Church. Known to her family as Lenchen, Princess Helena was born in 1846. By then, her family was already quite large. Perhaps due to a desire to be noticed among her many siblings, Helena was spirited and outspoken. In 1866, she married Prince Christian of Schleswig-Holstein, although they spent most of their time in England. Like many members of her family, Helena was extremely creative, and in 1872, she became the founding president of the Royal School of Needlework. She actively supported the school and even raised money for a larger, nicer location, which was finally completed in 1903. Helena also took on the chairmanship of the Ladies' Committee of the British Red Cross, on which she served with Florence Nightingale. Helena gave birth 6 times, although her 5th child died at barely a week old, and her 6th was stillborn. Perhaps unsurprisingly, by 1872, Helena was physically worn out. 2 weeks after that delivery, Queen Victoria wrote to her eldest child, Helena's sister Vicky. Lenchen is 26 today. She looks much older. Helena was also very sick throughout the 1870s, although her mother believed this was mostly due to hypochondria. Princess Louise was known as the most beautiful and modern of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert's children. She was also an extremely talented artist. In fact, had Louise not been a princess, she likely could have made art her career. She was particularly adept at sculpting and famously created the statue of her mother that still stands outside Kensington Palace. As it was, she was allowed to take some classes and later became president of the Ladies' Work Society, where she designed embroidery patterns for the women to make and sell. A number of salacious rumors surrounded Princess Louise. There is a possibility, for example, that Louise had an illegitimate baby with her brother's tutor. Another rumor suggested that an older sculptor in her studio had died as the two made love. Louise finally married in 1871, but it has been suggested that her husband, the Marquis of Lorne, was gay. While the couple shared artistic and cultural interests, they had no children and eventually spent most of their time apart. Born in 1850, Prince Arthur was named after Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington.
Brotherly business, isn't it, Delancey? Killing.
The prince followed in his namesake's footsteps when he joined the army in 1866. Arthur's military career was remarkable for a royal. In 1869, the prince arrived in Canada, ostensibly as part of a military assignment, but he also spent 2 months touring the country in a personal capacity. During the time, he traveled over the border to the United States, where he saw Niagara Falls, visited New York City, and met President Grant in Washington, D.C. Arthur even participated in a battle in 1870 when Irish Republicans in the U.S. attacked Canada, although it's not clear how much of a role he played in the actual fighting. Regardless, in 1871, Arthur was promoted to honorary colonel of the 28th Middlesex Rifle Volunteer Corps. In 1874, Arthur was styled Duke of Connaught and Strathearn. He married Princess Louise Margaret of Prussia in 1879. After that, he continued his military career, traveled extensively, and was eventually appointed Governor General of Canada. Queen Victoria famously introduced hemophilia to many of the houses of Europe through the marriages she arranged for her children. Of Victoria's sons, however, only one was himself a hemophiliac. Prince Leopold was born in 1853, and his family became aware of his condition while he was very young. It didn't become public knowledge until 1868. Despite this delicate condition, in 1872, Leopold enrolled at Oxford University. There, he became good friends with Alice Little, the girl who, in the early 1860s, had inspired Lewis Carroll to write Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Leopold would eventually agree to be godfather to one of her children and acted as a pallbearer to her mother's funeral. While there are rumors that Leopold and Alice were romantically involved, if true, it couldn't have become serious, as he was forbidden from marrying a commoner. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert sired 9 children, and Princess Beatrice, born in 1857 and only 4 years old when her father died, was the last of them. As it turned out, this would be quite the mixed blessing. As the youngest of Victoria and Albert's children, Beatrice was indulged by her parents. She was nicknamed Baby, even as an adult. However, once her father died, Victoria decided Beatrice should never leave her side, remaining unwed and devoting her life to supporting her mother. Beatrice herself was not given a choice in the matter. When Princess Louise married in 1871, Beatrice became the last daughter left at home with Victoria. While this situation was hardly ideal, her mother's dependence on her gave Beatrice a decent amount of power. By 1872, aged just 15, the princess was writing letters in Queen Victoria's name. She also held the key to the boxes of important documents sent to the Queen by Parliament. And when Victoria fell ill, it was Beatrice who nursed her back to health. Beatrice was eventually allowed to marry, although, for the most part, she and her husband remained by Victoria's side.